All right, so we're diving deep today into English fluency.
Definitely.
And, you're here obviously wanting to boost those English skills.
Of course, who isn't?
Right. And this podcast we found has some super interesting stuff, like a shortcut to fluency almost.
Yeah, what I found really cool is like how practical it is.
Totally.
It's not just like, oh, you want to learn English.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, here's how you actually do it, no matter where you're starting from.
It makes it seem possible.
Exactly.
One thing that jumped out was like they're big on daily practice.
Oh, for sure.
And I know everyone's thinking, but who has the time?
Right.
But they make a good point. Even just like 10 minutes, 15
It's huge, yeah.
makes a difference.
Absolutely.
And they even say, make it fun. Like, listen to music, watch videos.
Oh, totally.
Not like study, study, study all the time.
More like just get used to it.
Right, exactly. Make English part of your life.
It's like building a habit, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't go to the gym and like bench press the heaviest weight on day one.
Yeah. No way.
You got to build up to it.
Small steps.
Exactly. And that's what the music, the videos, it's like,
It's like passive. Yeah.
yeah, you're training your ear without even realizing it.
And speaking of building blocks, vocab, right? They talk about that too.
Oh, huge.
Might sound basic, but they're like, start with simple words, the everyday stuff.
Makes sense, right? Those are the words you'll use the most.
Totally. And they had this list like, hello, thank you, that kind of thing.
But the cool part was they're like, personalize it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, what words do you use all the time?
Make it your own.
Exactly. So it's actually useful.
And that ties into the reading tips they had, like starting with easy stuff.
Oh, for sure. Like stories, articles.
Things you're already interested in.
It's like, they call it scaffolding. You build up. You start simple, then get more complex.
Like those weights at the gym again?
Exactly.
And they said, underline new words, use a dictionary.
I love that.
It's active reading.
Yeah, you're really engaging with it.
Learning as you go.
And you remember more that way.
Now, speaking, that can be scary.
Definitely.
But they had some good tips for that too, like don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, so important.
They said find a practice partner or even talk to yourself in the mirror.
I know, it sounds silly.
But it works, right?
It helps you get comfortable hearing yourself.
Yeah, it builds that confidence.
And if you want more interaction, they mentioned like online language partners.
Oh, yeah.
It's real conversation practice.
It's like a language buddy on the other side of the world.
Exactly.
Okay, this one's fun. They said watch movies and shows with subtitles.
Oh, I love that.
It's like sneaking in learning.
And you're seeing how English is actually used.
Real life stuff.
Exactly. And they said, start with easier things, like cartoons.
Then work your way up.
Exactly. Find shows you enjoy so it's not a chore.
I never thought of writing as part of fluency, but they talked about that too.
Interesting, right?
They said journal, just a few sentences a day.
Makes you think about grammar, how sentences work. And they're like, don't worry about being perfect.
Just practice. That's the key.
Use a dictionary if you need to.
Exactly.
Okay, this one's great. Learn through songs.
Oh, fun.
Picks up vocab, rhythm, even pronunciation.
Music sticks in your head,
Totally.
So it's like the words just get in there.
And for the tech lovers, they mentioned online resources, apps, games, all that.
Oh, so many options.
It's like bite-sized learning.
Yeah, you can fit it in anywhere.
And don't forget review. They were big on that.
So important.
Reinforces what you've learned.
Like building a house, you need a strong foundation.
Makes sense.
Review is that foundation.
They even said set time aside for it, like a mental workout.
Keeps those skills sharp.
All right. Ready for a mind shift? They said surround yourself with English.
Interesting.
Like change your phone settings to English, little things like that.
Tacit learning, right?
Exactly. And they also said be curious.
Oh, for sure.
If you don't understand something, look it up. Ask questions.
It's like taking charge of your learning. We've covered a lot, but there's more to come. We'll be back with even more tips and insights to help you on your path to fluency.
Before we move on, I was thinking about that surrounding yourself with English thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's really powerful. And it actually connects to something else they mentioned about asking questions.
Being curious. Yeah.
Yeah, like when you don't understand something.
Instead of just going with it.
Exactly. You look it up, you ask.
Even simple stuff like, what does this word mean?
Yeah. Or how do I use this phrase?
It makes you think about it more.
Right. And that's how you learn, by being curious.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I know we all want to be fluent, like yesterday,
Of course, who doesn't?
but they had this tip about setting goals.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Like small goals, not I'll be fluent in a year.
More manageable, right?
Exactly. Like, I'll learn 5 new words today.
Or I'll have a conversation with my language partner.
Little wins,
It keeps you motivated.
Builds momentum.
And speaking of classic methods, they mentioned flashcards.
Old school, but effective.
Yeah, there's a reason they still work.
Spaced repetition, right?
You review things at different times, so it sticks.
And you can make your own or use apps.
So many options.
Whatever works for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't forget about having a dictionary handy.
Oh, yeah. Crucial.
Whether it's a book or an app, always have it.
For those moments when you're like, what does that mean?
You can look it up right away.
Like instant learning.
Now, this one might sound a little weird, but they said, practice thinking in English.
Oh, interesting.
So not translating in your head, just thinking.
Oh, like, I'm making coffee, but in English.
Exactly. It gets your brain used to it.
I can see how that would help.
And another tip, they said, focus on phrases, not just single words.
Ah, so like not I go store, but I'm going to the store.
Yeah, it sounds more natural.
And helps you speak faster.
It's like having ready-made chunks of language.
They also talked about YouTube, how great it is for learning.
Oh, for sure. Tons of content.
And you can use subtitles with any video.
So it's not just those English learning channels.
Like, if you're into cooking, watch cooking videos.
Makes it fun, you know.
Learning without realizing it.
Now, as we're getting close to the end here, one thing they emphasized was learning English takes time.
It's a journey, right?
There will be ups and downs.
Don't compare yourself to others.
Everyone learns differently.
Just focus on your own progress.
Celebrate those small wins.
We've got a few more tips left, some really good ones. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back, and we've got some more fluency gold to share.
These last few tips are all about, like, making English a habit.
Yeah, part of your daily life, not just something you study.
Exactly. And they start off talking about apps.
Oh, those are great.
There are so many good ones now.
It's like having a teacher in your pocket.
And they make it fun, you know, with games and stuff.
Some even help you with pronunciation.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those. They give you feedback.
It's amazing. Speaking of, they had a really important point about, like, not comparing yourself to others.
Ah, yeah, that's so easy to do.
Yeah. You see someone speaking fluently and you're like, why not me?
But everyone learns differently.
Right, and at their own pace.
It's like your own journey.
Don't get discouraged.
Celebrate your progress.
And, as we wrap up, I keep thinking language is more than just words.
It's true.
It's about connecting with people, understanding different cultures.
It opens up a whole new world.
So keep exploring, keep learning, keep pushing yourself.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Those are how we learn.
Exactly. Embrace the journey.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into English fluency. We'll see you next time. Keep those language fires burning. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep today into how to learn English quickly and effectively.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it is. And you guys shared a really cool article from Preply called How to Learn English by Yourself, a step-by-step guide to fluency.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's packed with tips. And to help me break it all down, we've got our amazing expert speaker here who knows a thing or two about language learning.
That's right. I'm happy to be here.
So glad to have you. So the article really starts off strong, I think, by stressing how important it is to, like, know where you stand, like assess your level and set smart goals.
Yes.
And I know for me personally, whenever I just tell myself, oh, I'm going to learn this language, it never works out.
Right.
Because it's just too big and vague.
Yeah.
Have you run into that yourself?
Oh, absolutely. It's like, starting a road trip without knowing where you're going or how to get there,
Right.
So this guide, it recommends figuring out your current level.
Okay.
Maybe even taking a language test.
Oh, interesting.
So you can see your strong points.
Yeah.
And, the areas you might need to focus on.
Yeah.
And then the SMART goals.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah. I love that.
So instead of saying become fluent, you make your goals specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound.
Right.
So think of it like this. You want to travel to London.
Okay.
So a SMART goal could be, I want to understand and respond to basic travel questions in English within 3 months. Much more manageable.
Definitely. Way less overwhelming.
Yes.
I remember when I tried learning Spanish, I just set this big, massive goal of learning Spanish. And surprise, surprise, I got nowhere fast because it was just too big.
That's such a classic example of, how a vague goal can really trip you up?
Yep.
It's like trying to build a house without a solid foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Things are bound to get shaky.
Right.
And the article really emphasizes mastering basic grammar and vocabulary early on.
Yeah, you need those building blocks in place.
Yes, exactly. You need that foundation.
And what I think is really interesting is they're not, expecting you to spend hours every day studying. They're
Okay.
saying even just a few minutes of daily practice can add up.
Yeah.
And I've found that for myself, like flashcards or vocab app on my commute, like helps a lot.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, 5 minutes a day.
Little and often is definitely a winning strategy. It's all about that consistency.
Yeah.
And the guide recommends some great beginner-level resources for grammar and vocab.
Okay.
Even if you can only squeeze in a few flashcards on the bus, it's better than nothing.
Exactly. Speaking of squeezing things in,
Uh-huh.
the article has some really interesting ideas about immersion.
Yes.
Like things like switching your phone settings to English,
Ooh.
watching English TV shows, listening to podcasts.
Yes.
Like all these things that you can kind of like fit into your day.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is it's not just about passively absorbing the English.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with the language.
Yeah.
So imagine you're watching a show. Try repeating phrases, paying attention to new words, thinking about the context.
Oh, that reminds me. When I was learning French, I decided to binge watch this French comedy series, and it honestly did wonders for my listening comprehension.
Right.
Plus, it was just fun.
Exactly. And that's a perfect example of how choosing content you enjoy makes all the difference.
Yes.
When you're genuinely interested, learning feels less like a chore and more like a natural part of your day.
Right. And that kind of brings us to what I think is like one of the most important points, which is speaking practice.
Yes.
And the article really highlights how crucial it is for fluency and building your confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because speaking content, it helps you to internalize the language and actually start thinking in English.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about how we learned our first language,
Right.
we didn't start with grammar rules, right?
Yeah.
We learned by listening, speaking, imitating.
Yeah.
It's all about developing that intuitive sense of the language.
Right. And get this, there was a study by the University of Michigan that found that students who learned through conversation progressed much faster than those using more traditional methods.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Right.
That study really drives home the point that actively using the language is so effective.
Yeah.
Traditional methods often focus on memorization and drills,
Mm-hmm.
which are helpful to an extent,
To a point, yeah.
but they don't always translate to fluency in real conversations.
Totally. So for all the beginners out there feeling maybe a little overwhelmed,
Yeah.
the article suggests starting to speak as soon as possible, even if it's just a few words.
Mm-hmm.
Reading English often, like even just, celebrity gossip
Uh-huh.
can help. And finding a language partner can be a huge motivator.
Yeah, because then you're accountable to someone,
Right.
which can really help you stick with it.
Yeah. Accountability is super important.
Oh, it's huge. In fact, the American Society for Training and Development, or ASTD, they found that committing to someone increases the likelihood of achieving your goal by a whopping 65%.
Wow.
And when you have regular check-ins with someone, that number jumps to 95%.
That is wild.
Yeah.
It's amazing how just like having that little support system can really make a difference.
Oh.
So speaking of support, the article goes on to highlight a whole bunch of helpful resources, which we will dig into after a quick break.
Ooh, can't wait.
All right, we'll be right back.
Sounds good. And you know what's so great about all the resources that are mentioned is there's something for everyone.
Right.
Whether you prefer, structured lessons or interactive apps or diving headfirst into conversations.
Like a buffet
Yeah, exactly.
of language learning options.
Exactly.
So let's talk about some of these resources that stood out to me. The first one is one-on-one tutoring,
Okay.
which, let's face it can be expensive.
Yeah, it can be.
But the article specifically mentions Perplexity, which is known for being more affordable and accessible.
Yes, that's a good point because, one-on-one tutoring can really help you accelerate your learning,
Mm-hmm.
but it needs to be accessible.
Yeah.
And Preply is a great option because it offers, a wide range of tutors and price points.
Right.
So having that personalized guidance can really make a huge difference, especially when it comes to speaking practice.
Right. Okay, so tutoring is great for that personalized learning. What about if you want to try something a little more casual?
Yeah.
The article also mentions language exchange websites.
Oh, yeah, those are fantastic.
Have you ever used one of those?
I have, yeah.
What was your experience like?
It was really fun. It's a great way to connect with people from all over the world
Yeah.
who want to learn your native language while you practice English with them.
So it's like a win-win.
It is a win-win.
You get to like learn about their culture and they get to learn about yours.
Exactly. So it's a really fun and enriching experience.
That sounds awesome. It's like having a built-in language buddy. Okay, what about for like those of us who love learning through videos?
Yes.
The article mentions YouTube,
Of course.
which honestly, I'm always amazed by like the quality of educational content you can find there for free.
I know, me too. And it's constantly growing.
Yes.
So the article specifically mentions a few channels,
Oh, cool.
like Jennifer ESL,
Okay.
which is great for comprehensive grammar and vocabulary lessons,
Mm-hmm.
and then Bob the Canadian,
Okay.
who focuses on everyday conversations and real-life situations.
I love that because I think sometimes you can get caught up in like the textbook stuff
Right.
and forget how to actually like talk to people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah, YouTube's just a great resource for learning at your own pace.
Right.
You can pause, rewind, rewatch as much as you need to.
Yeah.
Plus, many channels have quizzes or even live streams.
Oh, wow.
So it's a really interactive way to learn.
Speaking of interactive learning,
Yes?
I've got to ask about language learning apps. So the article highlights Quizlet and Tandem. I've actually used Quizlet before to learn vocabulary.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so helpful for memorizing new words.
Yeah, it is.
And Tandem, from what I've heard, connects you with native speakers
Yes.
for more casual practice.
That's right.
Right. So have you used Tandem?
I have, yeah.
What did you think?
I really liked it. It's very user-friendly,
Okay.
and it's really cool because you can, connect with people from all over the world who are learning English.
Awesome.
So both Quizlet and Tandem are excellent choices.
I love that. So it sounds like there's just a whole world of resources out there, from like structured lessons to casual conversation practice. What's the biggest takeaway for you from the article's approach to learning English?
That's a good question. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that there isn't one right way to learn English.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding what works best for you,
Yeah.
whether it's, structured learning, immersion, a combination of different methods.
Right.
The key is to create a personalized plan that fits your learning style and your goals.
Yes, and the article really emphasizes that like there's no magic bullet or
Right.
quick fix for
Yeah.
fluency.
Yeah,
It takes consistent effort, just like anything worthwhile.
absolutely.
But the good news is it doesn't have to feel like a chore.
Right.
With so many engaging resources out there, you can actually make learning English fun and enjoyable.
Exactly. The article encourages you to think outside the box
Mm-hmm.
and find ways to incorporate English into your daily life.
Yeah.
So, watch movies, listen to music, even switch your phone settings to English.
Right.
It all adds up.
Like turning everyday life into a language learning adventure.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier,
Yep.
which is the power of community in language learning.
Yes.
The article doesn't explicitly mention this, but I think it's such an important aspect.
I agree.
What are your thoughts?
Having a support system can make all the difference.
Hmm.
Whether it's connecting with other learners online, joining a language exchange group, or even just telling your friends about your progress.
Right.
Sharing your journey can make it more fun and motivating.
It's like having a cheer squad.
Exactly. And even when you hit those inevitable roadblocks,
Mm-hmm.
having people to talk to and share your experiences with can really help you stay motivated and overcome those challenges.
Absolutely.
Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint.
Well said. So as we approach the finish line of our deep dive,
Right.
what are some key takeaways you'd like listeners to walk away with?
For me, I think the biggest takeaways are, like you were saying, be proactive.
Yeah.
Make English a part of your daily life.
Right. We talked about setting SMART goals.
Yes.
Building those like foundational skills with grammar and vocabulary,
Uh-huh.
and then really like immersing yourself in the language
Yes.
through things you enjoy, like
Mhm.
TV shows,
Yeah.
music, even podcasts.
Absolutely. It's about going beyond, just textbook study and finding ways to integrate English into your everyday routine.
Yeah.
And, this guide gives you a ton of practical tips and resources to do just that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, using language learning apps like Quizlet or Tandem, connecting with native speakers through language exchange websites, or even just changing your phone's language settings.
Right.
There are so many ways to make English a constant presence in your life.
Yeah. And the more you surround yourself with it, the more natural it becomes.
Exactly.
It's like learning to swim. You can read all the books about it, but until you jump in the pool and start splashing around,
Right.
you're not going to become a strong swimmer.
That's such a great analogy. And speaking of jumping in,
Yes.
the article really emphasizes the importance of speaking practice from day one.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn.
Right.
And remember that University of Michigan study we talked about?
Oh, yeah.
The students who learned through conversation progressed so much faster than those using traditional methods.
Right. It's all about putting those language skills into action.
Yes.
And the guide offers some great tips for beginners, like finding a language partner for accountability.
Mm-hmm.
As we learned from the ASTD, having someone to share your progress with and keep you on track can make a huge difference in your success.
Absolutely. Accountability is key.
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as, telling a friend about your language learning goals or finding a language exchange partner online.
Right.
Having someone to practice with and share your experiences with can make the journey more enjoyable and motivating.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question from the article itself.
Okay.
Do you think you learn best through interactive apps, structured lessons, or by diving headfirst into conversations? What resources from today's deep dive excite you the most? Take some time to reflect on your own learning style and preferences, and then go explore those resources.
I think that's a great question to ask yourself.
Yeah.
We've covered so much valuable information today.
Yeah, we have.
From setting smart goals to immersing yourself in the language and finding the right resources. Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to language learning.
Right.
The key is to experiment, have fun, and find what works best for you.
Beautifully said. And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
That's right.
There's a whole community of language learners out there, eager to connect and support each other.
Yeah.
So embrace the challenge, celebrate your successes, and never stop learning.
Happy learning, everyone.
We'll see you on our next deep dive.